It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mains and Duts. I'm your host, Mains, and my colleague, a man who would never scream 90-yard touchdown, 90-yard touchdown in someone's ear after that guy helped him up. It's Mr. Neil Dutton.
See, that particular action, the Phil Rivers video, has stirred some debate among people whose opinions I value, and also yourself. So I know pretty much where you come down on this.
So the problem is I don't come down on this. I am this. I am that guy. Woo! Touchdown!
Right in his ear, having just been helped up by him.
I think we need to understand that Phil Rivers, a man who we would describe in our parlance, Neil, as one of the greatest gooses of all time.
Yeah,
strikes
a man
me as
so virile he could impregnate coal.
Strikes me as a really, really nice guy off the field. Hearing excellent rumours that he would be, the next Tony Romo in the booth, is a massive prick when playing sport. Who knew?
Yeah, and why, of course, would you gravitate to such a person?
Because I'm a massive prick when playing sport.
Yeah. Oddly, though, you tend to not you tend to not be a fan of that behaviour in others in classic hypocrite move, i.e., your attitude to Mr. Virat Kohli, for example.
No, I don't like Virat. I actually quite like the Virat Kohli approach to all that nonsense. That's fine. I just don't particularly like Virat Kohli. Although I shouldn't really say that, as I've got 30 team members at the moment based across the length and breadth of India who probably believe that Virat Kohli is a god brought to them from, another planet to bring them cricketing joy.
Well, he is, kind of good.
Tremendously talented. Neil, this week we're in fancy playoff world. I'm not. I'm in many consolations. Although it did look like I missed our dynasty fancy league by I don't know, like waist size or something. I'm not 100% sure. There's up seven of us all with the same record. To say I'm mediocre would be an understatement. I think I was 7-7 in every league.
Yeah, the problem is that I have, I say a problem. The best thing, excuse me, the best thing about the dynasty leagues that I find is I don't have to worry about the playoff connotations because I've never been in playoff contention in the 4 or 5 years I think I've been doing that league. I literally am absolute arse at dynasty.
I'm 7-7 this year in that, and I don't really know why, because every week I look and think this team isn't very good. I need to draft players next year who are good. But at the end of the day, we're all living in James Dixon's league there, and he's just allowing us to survive. So there we go.
Pretty much, yeah.
This week news, we're going to talk head coaches, we're going to talk playoffs, then we're going to go into fantasy and help you win your league with a fancy darling, and also help you win your league by not picking someone as a fancy loser. And then we're going to go DFS for those of us who haven't got playoffs this week and talk about the players we would pick in a one-off DFS draft. But first things first, Neil, let's get on with Plugged Into the Mains. We discussed it a couple of weeks ago offline, Neil, so let's discuss it online. Head coaching positions are coming available. Mm-hmm. People are wanted for those positions, and it looks like some of them are going to get the pick of what they want. So I guess from our point of view, if you were power ranking these, where would you go? I've got 5 here, but you can add more if you think, because I've missed Atlanta. So Atlanta, Carolina, Washington, the Giants, the Browns, and the Cowboys. Now, they haven't fired their coaches, but let's be honest, if they don't, it's negligible. It's a complete negligence by the front office, especially the Giants. They stink real bad. So if you were a head coach of, let's say, the Lincoln Riley persuasion, where would you be looking to be the coach of?
Would it be a completely left field selection to say the Falcons?
I don't think so. So talk me through why you would go Atlanta.
Stable ownership. intriguing offensive pieces. They've got the quarterback. You don't have to worry about that. They've got still one of the best wide receivers in the game. They've got an emerging second receiver, Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
They need to upgrade the running back position, obviously. Offensive line is a work in progress. There are some pieces on defense I think have just been mismanaged. And we're in a division that, historically, there is a lot of turnover at the top. And you've got to look and say, Drew Brees is not going to be there forever.
No.
We don't know what's happening with Carolina. Tampa Bay are, good luck with that. I just think it's not a team that have entrusted the head coaching role to an offensive-minded coach for a while. And I think that they've probably suffered for that. They've probably suffered on the margins that maybe it would have been a harsh thing to do, and they probably, it would take a very, very bold team to do this, but maybe they should have fired Dan Quinn and promoted Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
After the Super Bowl, rather than letting him walk. And you see their offense, they've still been able to move the ball, but I just think that maybe if you entrusted the offense and the running of the general team to an offensive-minded coach and essentially did the LA Rams thing, turn the defense over full-time to someone and let him worry about that while you worry about everything else, they could benefit. I just think, for glamour, and let's be honest, the highest paid coach, you want to go to Dallas.
Yeah, I think if you go to Dallas as well, I think whether I think they are overrated. They always are. They're the Dallas Cowboys. They are Manchester United, right? They are, that kind of team where if you play for them, you are seen to be better than what you actually are, I think. However, they are talented. I think in terms of roster construction, of all the teams we've mentioned, they have the best roster. I think that's pretty obvious, personally. So I can get the most money. I have the best talent and personnel available, and unless Jerry Jones totally changes, I'm going to get more rope than I get in lots of places because Jason Garrett hasn't really looked like winning and has kept his job for years. Now, you do have to deal with Jerry being Jerry, i.e. he's the centre of attention. But to be fair to Jerry and Steven, they seem to draft pretty well or have done for, 5, 6, 7 years. So the issue is, he wants the spotlight. Well, if he's going to pay me $15 million a year, carry on.
The only issue I would have is, and I think this is where it's been talked down or not even talked at all about some of the things that Jason Garrett has had to deal with, in that he didn't want Greg Hardy anywhere near his team. He was foisted upon him by shiny attitude of the if I was the head coach, and you're going to have to bring in, it's the accepted that Jarrett is still going to be the GM because, in his words, the guy who the guy with the money makes all the decisions. Yeah, check on Washington, see how well that works. It's going to be a case of, you do not bring arseholes onto my team. Because, I know it's your team. I've got to coach them, and I'm not taking a team onto the field on Sunday with arseholes in it. So if it's someone like that who is going to stir up some ill feelings among the moderate fan bases, you do not sign him without me agreeing. And I honestly don't know what calibre of coach Jarrett is going to be cowed to if they came in with that attitude. It would have to be someone like Saban or Meyer or someone like that.
Let's be honest. Jarrett, since he's been the owner, has had 2 coaches who would have tried to take power from him, I guess would be the best way to describe it, which would be Jimmy Johnson and Bill Parcells. Both were fired. One won 2 Super Bowls. One got them from being terrible that they had been for about a decade to 13-3, I think, and then was fired. So it does come with a price. I think that bit is undoubted. I look at.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say. Go on, carry on.
I was going to say if we move on, the one job I wouldn't touch with a shitty stick. Can you guess which one it is?
Well, it's probably Washington, right?
Yeah.
No, but I guess, and I think that's understandable. Like, I'm not gonna, like, but if someone said, say we look at Dallas versus Washington, there's obviously infinitely more talent on Dallas, and it's people actually want to go to the games. But if they get rid of Bruce Allen, and you can convince Dan, and let's be honest, you're probably going to be mates with him in that Dan situation, that you can do this, and he doesn't get a player, you get your own personnel in and whatever, then you're just basically in Dallas again. And as long as you're allowed to draft rather than Dan and Bruce, then you're going to be okay. I still wouldn't take the job.
No.
But then it's that classic line. There's only 32 of them, and some of you're not going to get some of the people, but you should ask. And that you look and you think, like, not that Ryan Day from Ohio State's going to take the job, not that Urban Meyer's going to take the job, but you did recruit Dwayne Haskins and Terry McLaurin, and you have got Darius Geis and whatever, and you have got some defensive line players available. The rest of the team can be set off to the moon. I look and think I'm more concerned that I wouldn't touch the Cleveland Browns job, because I just feel that, like, the world conspires to make that a bad job. You may not do anything wrong, but something will go wrong.
Yeah. Even when they've done well this year, they've not been allowed to enjoy it.
Well, this is it. This is it. Like, last year they were a middling team, and everyone then expected them to go to the Super Bowl, which never really happens. They're kind of still a middling team now, and it's like they're 2-14. If you read all the headlines related to the Cleveland Browns, and read all the headlines you hadn't seen about the New York Giants, and asked which team was worse off, people would say the Browns. Like, the Giants are a train wreck.
The one area where I think that Cleveland is a more attractive job than Washington for the moment is, if Bruce Allen was going to go, what are we waiting for? Why isn't he out of a job now? What is his role that is so important at this stage of the season that he can't be not doing it?
Don't try and understand those type of things, Neil, because it'll give you a headache. Yeah, we haven't mentioned Carolina of all the teams, Neil. I guess the question on the Carolina situation is the same with some of the others. Is what are you doing at quarterback? And in theory, you've got Cam Newton for a year. Are you happy with that? Do you know his fit? I suppose you'd want to know his fitness beforehand. Or are you going to be one of them coaches who says, I don't want that type of quarterback, MVPs who win games. So I want someone else. I don't know. That was where it becomes a bit different, I guess.
I think that's a discussion is, as a head coach, if you have to ask David Tepper, what do you want to do at quarterback, rather than the question being to the coach, what do you want to do at quarterback? That would be a concern. Yeah. Organisationally, are they ready to move on from Cam Newton, or do they want the next coach to come in and salvage Cam Newton? If it's the latter, then you may, you'll be able to attract a certain type of coaches with, I don't know, someone like Greg Roman, maybe someone with, a track record of working with these type of coaches. But if it's a case of, okay, so what's your plan for quarterback? We're going to move on. Well, Kyle Allen's crap. Kyle Allen has beaten out Will Grier, so that says nothing about Will Grier. And the Panthers, I don't think are going to be high enough to get one of the top tier draft ones.
You're gonna have to mortgage. You're gonna have to mortgage some. You have to mortgage some kind of next 3 drafts to kind of sort that out, aren't you? I guess.
Exactly. So then the question is, well, if we do that, or we draft someone later on, are there any free agents, or potential, trade candidates that you as a coach have worked with who you think could come in and run your system? And it just seems it's a bit messy. I think there's some good pieces. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, Ian Thomas, tight end. I think there are a lot of talented pieces there. But if your quarterback situation is nebulous, it's something I'd like to avoid as a coach generally, because you could be out of a job very, very quickly.
Yeah. Moving on, Neil. Playoffs in real world fast approaching, and it seems that there is going to be a few teams on the outside looking in both divisions from where we stand. So I thought, let's do an odd ones out in the playoffs. Should we start with the AFC? The 4 teams in contention who could be out are, well, in the AFC South, it's Texans or Titans. Then in the wild card, it's Texans, Titans, Steelers, and Bills. So I guess from your point of view, who do you think wins the South? And then who do you think are on the outside looking in when it comes to playoffs?
I do not trust the Texans in the slightest. I do not see how a team that wants to be taken seriously can put in that type of effort and performance that they did against the Broncos last week.
Did you? I missed like the first 10 minutes because I was eating my tea, and like I paused it, but then like I went onto Twitter by like accident, and I'm like, this seems to suggest that they're like 21-0 down. That can't be right. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what's going on here? On their home, like what? I'm completely baffled by the whole situation. As you said, they're a team that are trying to, make the playoffs, and they absolutely stank the joint out.
Yeah, they weed down their own leg. Their defensive effort was pathetic. Without J.J. Watt, they've fallen apart dramatically. Without Will Fuller, their offense, Deshaun Watson is a completely different quarterback. The numbers back it up. You can't deny it. Yeah, he had a good fantasy day. Yeah, garbage time. Well, garbage time counts in fantasy. It doesn't help you in real world. So I do not see how you can possibly say with any degree of certainty that they're going to win this division when you see how well the Titans are playing with, the saviour that is Ryan Tannehill. Used to be a wide receiver,
Yeah. And I assume when he was a wide receiver, he learned how to tackle after he blew that guy up after throwing the interception, which was pretty spectacular. Like.
The tragedy for the Titans is, at the start of the season, I said that with the surrounding talent, this is probably the best offense that Marcus Mariota has ever played in. And I just think it's a sad indictment on Marcus Mariota that he couldn't get anything out of him, whereas Ryan Tannehill has elevated all the players around him.
Yeah. In the world, like we talk Charlie Brown a lot. In the world of Charlie Brown, I fear for the Buffalo Bills.
Really?
Like, they're 9-4, so they're only a game ahead of Tennessee, and only a game, are they level, or a game ahead? No, they're a game ahead of Tennessee and a game ahead of Pittsburgh. Their next games are at Pittsburgh, at the Patriots, and at home to the Jets. Is 10-6 going to get them in? I'm nervous. Like, I think they should be a playoff team, although they haven't really beaten anyone. But like, that's not their fault. That's what the schedule makers make, right? I just look and think, I'm nervous that they lose their next 2 games, and then it's a different kettle of fish. That's for me. I look at, I don't know, for some reason I just look at Pittsburgh and just think, come hell or high water, they're gonna like make it, and I don't really know how. But I just think they're the Pittsburgh Steelers, so they're gonna make the playoffs.
This game though, at the weekend, the Steelers against the Bills could finish 2-0.
Yeah, it won't. I don't think it'll be pretty. I think a big question is, do the last game of the season, the Steelers are at the Ravens, and the question is, are the Ravens safe, and is their franchise player healthy? Because if they're the 1 seed, do they play Lamar Jackson? That's the question.
I think it's organisationally, if it'd be a case of, look, we're already in, but we don't really want to face the Steelers at any point in these playoffs. We're going to try to knock them out now.
Yeah.
Then I think that's the one thing in Buffalo's favour. I mean, I believe I may be wrong, but Buffalo. If Buffalo win at the weekend, they've got a playoff spot.
Yeah, I think they just need to win.
They're
one
winning
more.
in.
Yeah, because then they will have the tiebreaker over. Then you've got the tiebreaker. So I think you're right.
Winning in, and then they're playing New England for the division next week.
Yeah,
or the week after, whenever it is.
It's next week. The week. So not this week, coming the Sunday after. On the NFC side, we've got the dumpster fire that is the NFC East. Which, if it was up to me and I was Roger Goodell, I'd create a rule so neither the Cowboys or the Eagles were allowed in. If anyone's, and Neil, I love you, but if anyone's seen those 2 New York Giants touchdowns, like, what is going on? And the Cowboys, well, you can go away after that Bears performance, go far, far away. The other ones are, we still have 3 AFC North teams in the picture. And don't look now, but here come the LA Rams. You're not sure? He's pulling a not sure face. Just so you know, Rams next game, Cowboys. So that's what's known in the trade as a W.
Well, I don't know if
that would then make them 9-5.
Yeah, I don't know if Wade Phillips has got any particular reason to, up his performance against the Cowboys.
Exactly right. Exactly. On the AFC North side, who's winning that division?
Well, the Packers will win it and have no business doing so.
They were absolutely horrific against Washington.
It was pathetic. This team,
don't tell me any
on offense.
Exactly, it's awful.
And I mean, there was a great breakdown by Ben Fennell. He showed a play where Aaron Rodgers had green grass in front of him, but he also had 3 options open that he could throw to. But he tried to run it himself and got tackled after 2 yards. As Ben Fennell said, that is not your job. That play has been put in. In Ben's words, all the answers to the test are already written in front of you. The one answer you do not select was, I'll run it myself, but you tried to be a hero. Aaron Rodgers is the problem at the moment. And I know people aren't going to like that, but there are going to be sensible people who will acknowledge it. He is part of the problem.
I think sometimes you look at stats. Sometimes mean things and sometimes don't. And a stat that Aaron Rodgers loves is last number of throws since before touchdown, since interception. Sorry, number of throws since interception. Well, if you keep on holding it and not throwing it to people, then you won't throw an interception.
Yeah.
And they're the 2 seed right now, and I don't know how that happened. But they are. They still got to play Minnesota, I think.
Yes.
So that's in Minnesota.
Yeah.
In Green Bay, in Minnesota. Massive game. I hope those 2 teams make it. Sneaky interesting that the Bears are still involved, as I think they play the Vikings and the Packers. So if they're not going to make the playoffs, they're definitely going to be involved in who does.
Yeah. The Eagles have no business making the playoffs, and probably they should beat Washington, even with threadbare roster.
They're still more talented, Neil.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, Washington shouldn't want to win.
No.
Washington should look to lose their next 3 games to lock up the 2 seed in the draft.
But if Dallas play with their heads out of their arses, they've got too much for this Eagles roster. I mean, I don't know how many receivers you can lose before you actually just hold up your hands and say the most important thing this season is we get Carson Wentz through 16 games and go from there.
Well, I mean that should be something. That should be something to the irony of someone who's been injured a lot, not necessarily through his own fault, just because that's how it happens, is the only one staying fit in a mass unit that is the Eagles' offense. But we, as we speak, 9:25, the 22nd of December, Joe and Troy will be impartial
Yeah.
in the Eagles Cowboys game in Philadelphia. I look forward to listening to him.
Apparently, Troy Aikman has been, is looking at maybe, doing GM work. Good, piss off, you biased old twat.
Yeah, thanks for that, Neil. They're Neil's thoughts, not mine, obviously. That's it for the news portion of the show, Neil. Let's go on to fantasy. It's fantasy playoff time. So let's help people win their fantasy matchups. First of all, by giving them a fantasy darling.
Hello, darling.
Fancy Darling this week is dependent on Greg Olsen deciding, you know what, I've got 2 games left before I can actually finally become a commentator. I'm not playing. In which case, if he does decide that, then my Fancy Darling this week is Ian Thomas. I've been a big fan of Ian Thomas for a long time. He came out in 2018. He was a bit raw. He was an athletic freak, but he needed to learn a bit about the position. Last season, when he played and Greg Olsen didn't, Ian Thomas was the tight end 6. This week, they are playing the Seattle Seahawks. They're at home, Carolina. Seattle bleed receptions to tight ends. And we all know now that, the Panthers' passing game is concentrated to DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, and the tight end Ian Thomas. So if you've got him, and if you're going to be streaming your tight end this week, especially it's a crucial week in playoff time, then as far as I'm concerned, gee whiz, baby, please, it's all about Ian Thomas.
Who should people avoid, Neil, so they make sure they win their fantasy league? Who is that? Fancy loser.
It's in the same game, and it's someone who's been invisible now for over a month. That's Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett got by without huge volume, but on great efficiency and a tremendous partnership with Russell Wilson. Yeah, the pair of them got into the toilet somewhat in recent weeks. So I don't think Tyler Lockett's right. I think he's hurt. And I just think, even though the Panthers aren't great, so it looks like one of those matchups, it'll all come good. Yeah, but what's the one thing Carolina can't do? They can't stop the run. What's the one thing Seattle then will do an awful lot of? Run the ball. So Tyler Lockett is someone who, and I'm in I'm in 4 playoff semi-finals this weekend. I own Tyler Lockett in 3 of the teams. He ain't going near the starting lineup in any of them.
Let's be honest, Neil. If the Carolina Panthers had the steel curtain and were the number 1 rushing offense in the league, the Seattle Seahawks would still run loads.
Oh yeah.
So them being 31, is it? I think maybe even 32 now. It's just music to Shotty's ears. So yeah, makes sense to go running back heavy in the Seattle game. Neil, not everyone has multiple fantasy playoffs, so some of us will have to play a little daily action. So let's give everyone a hand by giving them our daily fantasy teams of the week.
Mains and Duds. Daily fantasy team of the week.
Show me the money.
Neil, who's your quarterback this week?
You know those films where government agents or people in suits with dark glasses and briefcases go to speak to an old campaigner and try and convince him for one last job?
Yeah,
that's what I'm doing this week with Eli Manning at 5,200. The Giants are playing the Dolphins. Now we know Eli's going to check it down, but we did see that if he sees a wide receiver streaking wide open down the field, he may try and float one to them. And the Dolphins' defense is trash. And I know I keep saying this about some teams, and it keeps biting me on the arse. I'm still going through with it.
How are Atlanta's defense?
The 85 Bears when they played bloody Carolina for some reason. Eli Manning's 5,200, and I've linked him with someone else who will come a bit later. But one last time round the block, Eli.
Eli needs this one. Otherwise, he's going to be one of them. He's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback with a losing record. So, he needs this one, and he needs it bad.
There was at the end of the Eagles game, seeing the Eagles defenders go over and talk to Eli, you could tell it was someone they've obviously enjoyed playing against, as his record would indicate, but it wasn't in a mocking way. You could tell they do actually have genuine respect for him. And to his credit, although he never wins, the Eagles never blow the Giants out in Philadelphia. in New York, yeah, but it's always something. It's always Eagles coming back against the Giants under Eli in Philadelphia. So, thanks for everything. Let's have 1 week now off your pot.
Give me the Donovan McNabb stat. Give me it.
In the last 23 games, Donovan McNabb has the same number of wins against the Giants, as Eli Manning has against the Eagles. And Donovan McNabb last played for the Eagles in 2009.
Donovan McNabb is 4-0. Eli Manning is 4-19.
That is the Eagles' 7th consecutive win against the Giants on Monday Night Football. That is the longest winning streak of any matchup in Monday Night Football history.
I assume that is because we haven't played you much on Monday night recently.
No.
My quarterback is going to fly in the face of the challenges that Neil was laid down last week, as I am picking the quarterback who's playing the new 85 Bears when they play Carolina, the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to pick the youngest, oldest, prettiest quarterback in the NFL, Mr. Jimmy Garoppolo. 6,100. He's playing Atlanta, who can stink and then sometimes don't. And what I will say is, if I was a betting man, I would think that Kyle Shanahan won't stop until he's scored 100. Because that's how he rolls. I think he will enjoy that more than the beating he gave Washington. Garoppolo was pretty fantastic against the New Orleans Saints. Good on him. 6,100. I've gone Jimmy GQ here. Yeah,
we talk about beatings. We talk about being taken to the tool shed. I think of his former teams, I think Kyle probably has fewer hard feelings towards the Falcons than the Browns, and especially Washington. So maybe it'll be a mercy killing, but I do think he's going to run. This offense is going to be all over them like a cheap suit.
Neil, who's your running back one?
10,000. He's coming down. It's Christian McCaffrey against the Seattle Seahawks. He's Christian McCaffrey.
He is Christian McCaffrey, and it does make sense. I haven't picked Christian McCaffrey this week because I've gone for his wide receiver equivalent. We'll come to him later. My running back one is Kareem Hunt. He's playing Arizona, who really can't defend. Expect a lot of dump offs. 6,300. Kareem Hunt is getting more and more play in that Browns offense. He should get more and more if, Freddie Kitchens would run it more. But there you go. What can you do? 6,300, Kareem Hunt. Who's your running back 2, Neil?
Nick Chubb.
The
Chubbster. The Chubbster. The Cleveland Browns are playing the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals' run defense is woeful. Chubb only had 15 carries last week, but he did have 106 yards. He's averaging 98.5 rushing yards per game. On the road, he averages 5.2 yards per carry, but only 94.7 yards per game, although he does have his longest run of the season on the road. That's 88 yards, and 4 of his 7 rushing touchdowns. And the Cardinals, as I say, are not a very good defence. And at the moment, the Cardinals are not a very good team.
No, they're really struggling at the moment.
Yeah. Chubb is 7,900.
My running back 2 is Raheem Mostert. Really, when you watch him play and he picks with the boys, shot out of a cannon. Injuries abound, but is he starting to get that I'm going to be the lead back for the next half an hour under Kyle kind of play? I think he is. 5,200. If they get up early, then maybe they run more. That's where you get Mostert the most. So 5,200 I've gone with him.
Do you know who drafted Mostert originally? Or at least signed him coming into the league?
I have no idea.
The Eagles.
Nice. Because he wouldn't have worked in your backfield at all, would he?
He's fast. So
yeah, yeah, of course. Silly you guys. Who's your wide receiver 1, Neil?
My wide receiver 1 this week at $6,000 is AJ Brown of the Tennessee Titans. Do you know what I mean? He's a rookie, so, and we can say it, because we're old men now. He's only a kid. He's an absolute beast. We've spoken in the past that Julio Jones is like a centaur. That's what this guy is. He just looks like he's a man playing amongst boys, and he's just ridiculously efficient. He's leading all rookie wide receivers with. In fact, I believe he may be the most efficient rookie wide receiver in terms of yards per reception in NFL history. He's averaging 22 yards per reception. The Houston Texans defense is crap. They were pathetic against the Denver Broncos. And Denver were not testing them downfield. We've seen that Ryan Tannehill is going to take a couple of shots downfield. And A.J. Brown, I suggested at the start of the season, or during the postseason, that maybe the Titans had drafted A.J. Brown to be the number 1, so Corey Davis could go back to being the number 2. And that's happened, although what means is A.J. Brown is everything, Corey Davis is dust. So A.J. Brown, 6,000.
It's weird that the Titans have got like a legitimate number 1 receiver right now. It freaks me out a little bit. It's not normal.
It's not nice.
It's not. It's just not cricket, really. My wide receiver 1 has 28 more receptions and 200 more yards than any other wide receiver in the NFL, and that's Michael Thomas. He's 8,700. He's playing the Indianapolis Colts, and he is super, super good. Breaking news. I have triple sourced that, and it's confirmed. Michael Thomas is amazing at the NFL.
Well, I'm glad you were here to tell us this, because otherwise, how would we have known?
Exactly. Who's your wide receiver 2, Neil?
Wide receiver 2 is someone who's come on of late. That's Anthony Miller. The Bears are playing the Green Bay Packers. Miller has had 9 or more targets in 3 of his last 4. Last week, he only had 42 yards against the Cowboys, did score a touchdown, and as I say, the Cowboys just quit. They gave up. Their effort was pathetic. In the 3 games before that, he'd had 54 yards, 77 yards, and 140. So he is 5,100, and Mitchell Trubisky is starting to look a bit more like the Mitchell Trubisky who worked last year, in the sense that they're letting him run. They don't want him to be Alex Smith. So maybe, just possible, Matt Nagy's decided, actually, he can do this quite well. Let's let him do it.
Yeah, that's right, Neil. By the way, what I forgot to mention about Michael Thomas is right now he has 121 receptions. Is that right? If that, he has to get to 143 to... Yeah, so he has 143 to match the record set by Marvin Harrison. So he needs, 22 more in 3 games?
I'll take the over.
I'm going to take the over, Neil. And if only someone would have predicted this at the start of the season. Oh, yes, I did. Go back to Waxing Lyrical, predictions bound to go wrong, which haven't gone wrong, for details. Wide receiver 2, Neil. Your Eli Manning is going to throw to my Golden Tate, Miami against the Giants.
Is he?
Well, we'll find out. 5,900. I like Golden Tate, and I don't like that he's on the Giants. I never have, but I just think, give him a chance. Golden Tate, 5,900.
Just a little tip to the Giants and the offensive genius that is Pat Shurmur: don't run flea flickers off a draw play.
Yeah, that would work, Neil. That would.
Because you're going to get someone killed.
Yeah, he nearly did. That was cool. Not. Who's your wide receiver 3?
The wide receiver that Eli Manning will throw to, Darius Slayton, who's been sneaky good this year. He's actually been, a rare beacon of joy for the Giants. He's 4,700. He did have 2 touchdowns against the Eagles on Monday night. As you pointed out, the Eagles just decided they weren't going to bother. He's been slightly more productive. In fact, he's been a lot more productive on the road than he is at home. He averages 30.6 yards per game at home, 84.3 on the road. And on the road is where he scored 6 of his touchdowns. But Miami's defense is a joke. So he's shown big play ability. I say, if we just have a look at his game log. Doesn't see huge volume, but his last 4 games he's had 15 targets, 7, 9 and 8. And in that time he's got 121 yards, 67 yards and 154. And he's got 2 games in that span with 2 receiving touchdowns. So he's 4,700 in what could be a sneaky shootout between 2 rather awful teams.
My wide receiver 3 is I've got no money left and I'm running out of time to pick Larry Fitzgerald. 4,300. It's time to go, Larry. And I just want to be there to say that I picked you one final time.
And wasted your money.
Yeah, but I needed 6,200 for my tight end. So
you really don't.
I do. Yeah, Larry Fitzgerald 4,300. Let's not talk about it. Who's your tight end, Neil?
My tight end is Mr. Boombastic Ian Thomas, 3,100.
Interesting. Mine is 6,200. With the play of the NFL season, and probably should be like on signs and T-shirts everywhere. Mr. George Kittle. Why should I like George Kittle, Neil? He's awesome. I get to handcuff him with Jimmy Garoppolo.
And here comes the third reason.
And he probably loves wrestling more than me, which is a tough ask. So Kittle rocks, literally, if you smell what I'm cooking. 6,200, George Kittle. Nice. Yeah, I said it.
Crippling your DFS team for another wrestling key. It's a strategy.
Who's your flex, Neil?
Flex is Raheem Mostert, 5,200. San Francisco playing the Atlanta Falcons.
My flex is something that I never usually do, but I did this time. Is I'm picking Adrian Peterson to play Philadelphia, as Philadelphia's defense is rubbish. But that's not the reason I'm picking Adrian Peterson. Is because Darius Geis went. Because Darius, yeah, well, there's that too. Because Darius Geis went on IR, there's a possibility that Adrian Peterson has 95% of the touches in this game, as they flat out refuse to let Dwayne Haskins throw. There's possibly a reason for that. Like I'm not naive enough to suggest that there isn't right now. However, the established run is gone a little bit too far.
It has been established. I know it's not. It's just an MCL sprain for Geis, but I'd worry. It keeps happening. It's the same body part.
Of course. I think yes. There should be major concerns. I don't think that's outside the realms of anyone saying anything wrong there. Who's your defense and special teams, Neil?
Defense and special teams is the Detroit Lions. Now, their defense is terrible. However, they are playing the ultimate he giveth and he taketh away in Jameis Winston, who had the most Vinny Testaverde scoreline of all time last week. Was it 450 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions? All the interceptions were shocking. They were all, yeah, mate, to members of the Colts. But he puts up the yards. He does get the touchdown, great. But he makes sacks. Got a bum hand. So there's a good chance. There's not a good chance, but there is still a chance that he may not play, and they entrust it to pop gun arm Ryan Griffin. I just think the Lions defense is terrible, and this is a classic. We hired you as a defensive coach, and what you've managed to do is destroy the offense. Destroy the winning culture that we had of a sort and make the defense crap. But Jameis doesn't need great defenses. He'll just give you the ball anyway. 2,300.
When does it stop being a Vinny Testaverde line and start just being a Jameis Winston line?
I think he has to go to another 2 or 3 teams and do better than Vinny did, which I don't think he will. So it's going to be a Vinny Testaverde line.
Over 60% completion, second in yards, second in touchdowns. 33 quarterbacks have less interceptions than him now, which is an issue.
He's on pace for 5,000 yards. Now
and 30.
Yeah, but 5,000 yards, it's not the, no one will ever touch it again. No, but the big difference is all the quarterbacks who've got 5,000 yards won.
Yeah, true. What I found, correct me if I'm wrong, his first pass was a pick six. This
Ever?
week, no, his first throw this week was a pick. Last week was a pick six.
Yeah.
That's the third time in his career that's happened. That he's thrown a pick six. It's unbelievable. My defense and special teams is the Buffalo Bills against the Pittsburgh Steelers. As you quite rightly pointed out, this game could finish 2-0. And if it's 2-0 to the Bills, that means I get a safety. Duck is better than Mason Rudolph. Having your arm cut off is better than having the plague. Not really something you would boast about. I'm going Bills here, as I don't know if anyone noticed, but the Baltimore Ravens really struggled last week to score points. Now they scored points, but it wasn't easy, and that's because of the Buffalo Bills defense.
They are very good. I mean, Sean McDermott he has got a good system going. He's got one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, Tre'Davious White, and yeah, they made it tough for Lamar Jackson. It was interesting. I think it was Doug Farrar. He pulled out an article that I forget who it was who wrote it. It was about how Jim Johnson of the Eagles slowed down Michael Vick in the 2004 NFC Championship game. Now Vick, as we know at that time, was a phenom. There was no other quarterback like him. He was a rushing quarterback. He was kept in check by the Eagles defense. There was an assistant coach on that Eagles defense in 2004 who last week showed something akin to the way to slow down Lamar Jackson. It was Sean McDermott, of course. So it's one of those, I'm not suggesting that it's a simple case of this is all you have to do and straight away you've destroyed this player who's having an MVP season. But there were signs there that if you take away Mark Andrews and you make it slightly tougher for everyone else to run, he can be slowed down. It's the rushing is cut, yeah, but he's still upright.
Let's recap, Neil. Who's your quarterback?
One last time, Eli Manning.
Mine's Jimmy Garoppolo. Running back 1.
Christian McCaffrey.
Kareem Hunt. Running back 2.
The Chubster.
Get that chub on. Raheem Mostert for me. Wide receiver 1.
Tony Millett.
Man is hopefully soon to be owner of the receptions record. Michael Thomas. Wide receiver 2, Neil.
Best AJ in the NFL, AJ Brown.
Golden Tate for me. Wide receiver 3.
Darius Slayton.
It's been a ride, Larry, but this is the last time. Larry Fitzgerald. Tight end.
Was he the same draft class as Eli? Or was it was 2004? Yeah.
Yeah.
Both of you pissed off. Ian Thomas.
I've got George Kittle, if you smell what I'm cooking. Who's your flex, Neil?
Raheem the Dream.
I've got Adrian Peterson. Who's your defense and special teams?
The Lions. I don't feel good about it.
Yeah, you shouldn't. I've got the Buffalo Bills. Neil, where can people catch you this week?
This week, the usual gubbins. NFL 5 key stats that came out of last week's action. Still got plenty of time to read that before this week kicks on. That's from Number Fire. Wide receiver target report, where I look at the wide receivers who saw at least 10 targets before the week. There was 6 of them, so that was a very, very low number. And my tight end streaming column, usually I only give 3, but it's fantasy semi-final week, so I gave you 4. And I'll have a few things that hopefully should be out by the time you listen to this. It'll be Thursday. They should be out later today on Ravens Wire. It will be the one player on the Jets roster I'd like to see on the Ravens, and also a scouting report on the New York Jets, where I'm charitable in not describing the Jets offense as pathetic.
Well done, Neil.
Took some doing.
I'm at Mandy 7. Touchdown 3 will be out later this week. Struggling still. Screw you, Eagles, not destroying Eli Manning. Going 17-3 down is bad form.
Bite me.
Yeah. Combined we are at waxing_lyrical. What we will say is...
Should we tease what we're going to do next week, though?
Next week, Neil's making me do Team of the Decade. So I need to remember 10 years of my life. And look.
Can I suggest Pro Football Reference?
Yeah, and look at stats. Yes, I think that's a good idea. Final thing for me and Neil. Tomorrow is Thursday, December the 12th, if you are listening to this. on Thursday, December the 12th, I have one question. I have one ask of you, and that is to vote. Me and Neil have political persuasions, which you can probably tell by our accents. We're not going to preach about that kind of thing. What we will say is that if you don't vote, don't effing moan about it. Get out there, do your thing, vote for who you believe will make the world a better place. And on that note, these top guys are out.